Well, something happened there. I think we're live.
I believe so. How are you?
Excellent yourself.
I'm doing well.
So we said we were just going to jump on and talk. Life comes at you pretty fast, and I don't know. I don't know if we got a messed up layout here. I don't know what we got.
I don't know
Um,
what it's I don't know what it's doing. Give me a moment to peek.
yeah. So
So we're just gonna go along with this, right?
it's got the vertical up, and they must have changed the setting in here. I haven't had a chance to look at it. I got an email that said something was changing, so I don't know. Um, but no, we Linda and I usually have a plan when we come together, uh,
Yeah, that's
and
better.
there we go. That's a better layout. So it's just one of those. Today was the day. Well, first off, good morning, Linda. How you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Sam?
Oh, I finally caught up to where we were supposed to be a half hour, 45 minutes ago. Life comes
Such
at
is
you
life,
fast.
right? Such is life,
Um,
right?
Wednesday morning, I volunteer at a local food pantry. I do pickups with a good friend of mine, Joe Elmer, and we pick up at a couple of locations and take it to the food pantry. And today was one of those days where it's the largest load that we've taken to the food pantry, which, God works in mysterious ways. We got out there with the first load, and it's like, oh, there's no food here. There was very limited amount of stuff for the pantry today, and we had to make two runs. And so, uh, well, it's just God works in mysterious ways. It was just something that we had to do today, put us a little bit behind, both of us, and
For a very good cause, though.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're flexible with what we do here.
Yes,
I
we are.
thought about it. It's like, geez, I haven't. Uh, when we leave in the morning, I barely have had time to have my first cup of coffee. Okay. And so I usually I put on, unfortunately, you don't see how I'm dressed, but I usually put on clothes that are, can get dirty because there's sometimes, anyway, it
Yeah.
can get nasty. But um, I was thinking about it. The shirt that I'm wearing it's an old Phillies shirt that I've had since Cliff Lee pitched for the Phillies. So that's a long time ago. And because it's got his name on it. And I'm thinking I really shouldn't do the podcast, but if I don't, then it's going to be another half hour before I take a shower, get changed, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, um, but we adapt, right?
Yeah.
We just if we let those things upset the apple cart for our day, then we live in stress the whole time.
And we live in enough stress as it is. We don't
It's
need
true.
to create an unnecessary stress on ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. I I left the house today. I got all the way down to where I was supposed to meet Joe at, and it's like, oh no, the church keys are on the TV stand. so so we got there. I told Joe, I says, hey, let's load it up. Um, I'll uh, I'll go pick up the church key. We'll meet about halfway there, and of course that's what we did. And I could have made that stressful, or I could have just said, hey, this is life. And today I made the right decision. It's life. It happens. Um, and so, uh, but as I was coming back to get the church keys, my wife was leaving to go to work, and she was running a little bit behind. So puppies didn't get fed, didn't get walked, and it's like I'll take care of it when I get home. And so they've been fed, and so by the time we're done, they're going to want to go for a walk. They're both laying at my feet right now. And so,
Hoping you won't forget.
oh yeah, right, 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 right. So, but um, we adapt. We take, I normally make Rita's lunch in the morning, and so she took care of that today. And I told her, I says, if you can't figure out what you want to do for lunch, just text me or call me, and I'll bring you lunch. So we just adapt. Um,
And
and
I think part of, you know, we both use Disc for a lot of what we do. And depending on your personality style, adapting is a much easier thing for some than it is for others.
right, 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 right,
And
right.
sometimes we get ourselves into such a rigid routine. And routine is wonderful if it flows and it works, but also there's always going to be something,
Yeah.
right? I mean, my mom had a routine and she was a nurse, so that routine got thrown out of whack a lot.
Yeah.
And, she stressed about it at first, and then it was like, nope, this is just part of the routine, is that we
Yeah.
have to be flexible.
Right.
And I find that I'm really probably more flexible than I should be.
I think the older I get, the more flexible I become. It's just one of those, as you learn and grow and gain some wisdom, you realize that you wish you had that wisdom in your 20s so that you wouldn't have made some of the choices that you made, but you made those choices, right?
Right.
And so I'm still alive. Both feet are on the ground and don't have any dirt on my head. So, uh, we're, I'm doing well. And um, Rita and I have had some discussions recently about the past, the present, and the future, just as we work through a study that we're doing. And uh, you have to learn truly to let go of every situation, you know, um, through any type of recovery program, whether it's for a substance addiction or abuse, or whether it's for psychological or mental or whatever. There's all sorts of the steps are about the same, and so. But one of the biggest things that we have to do is say, okay, I had a run in with this person, and if it's family, it's worse. And so, are you going to let it go and grow with the family, or are you going to hold on to it? My dad, I love my dad. My dad taught me an awful lot, and if Dad had a character flaw, it was holding a grudge.
Yeah.
And as he got older, he realized it really wasn't worth his time to hold a grudge against somebody. However, there was one that him and his sister, my aunt, held on to until they died. Um, and then, when they got to heaven, it's probably one of those, oh, that really wasn't that way, you know?
Right.
And
That,
so,
that wasn't worth it at all.
yeah, right. And so, but here's the thing, it had to do with family and money,
Yeah.
and the two don't mix.
There,
And so,
and the
it
thing
was
is that they have to mix because they overlap.
right. And it happened when they were kids. And so they got the story secondhand, and they only got one side of the story.
Right.
And so, um, uh, so there's a whole side of the family that my cousin and I did not grow up with, and they lived like, well, they lived, I believe, in Philly somewhere, and we lived in the suburbs, so 20 to 30 minutes away on the train. And so now Arlene has connected with Few and has come up with some of that. And that's one thing I need to do, is to plan a trip and spend some time with her to look at that family tree and that family history, because she's broken it down really well. But how different would life have been if they hadn't held that grudge, or hadn't had that animosity? Um, Now, can't go back and change it,
No.
but going forward, you can look at it and say, okay, um, that was the last generation, right?
Right.
And so we're a different generation. Are we gonna hold on to the last generation's choices, or are we going to make new and better choices for ourselves, so that when we pass it on to our children and our grandchildren and our great grandchildren, I can say great grandchildren because I have one.
Yay.
Um, uh, she's walking now, talking, and oh my goodness gracious, she is a ball of fire. But what are we going to pass on?
Right. And a lot
One
of
of the
times we look at that and we say, well, that's part of our tradition.
Yes,
Well,
yeah,
maybe it's not a healthy part of the tradition,
yeah,
and it can be replaced with a healthier.
yeah. One of the scripture quotes that Dave Ramsey likes to use a lot, and he uses it in the context of money. A wise, and I'm paraphrasing here, but a wise person leaves an inheritance to his children's children's children. Okay, so 2, 3 generations down there might be another children in there. I don't remember exactly, but you have to look at that in the concept not just of finances, not just of property. What are we leaving the next generation in the way of mindset, in the way of how they look at money, how they look at others, how they look at life? If we're leaving the mindset, that narrow focused mindset of unforgiveness, of oh, they did this to me in the past, and oh, I can't trust this person, or if we leave them that mindset, we're not leaving them a healthy inheritance.
No. And, we don't like to admit it, but each generation has their own things that they go through that's different, similar, but different than the previous generations. And so, growing up, teenagers are teenagers, but the things that they face now are different than the things that my son faced when he was a teenager,
Oh yeah, yeah,
which was different than what I faced as a
yep,
teenager and
yep,
was different than what my parents faced as teenagers. And so some of it's very similar. There's the angst and the, trying to fit in and all the other things that go along with being a teen. And then you add on top of that whatever is going on environmentally in the world and in their area. And, when we were kids, it was what was going on in our street or in our school.
yep,
And then with my son, it was what was going on with the street and the school and work and the rest of the city. And
right,
now we are such a global society
yeah, we are.
that everything that goes on, whether it should affect us or not, does, because we have so much more access to what and also what we're seeing. Maybe not, we're never getting the whole story. Doesn't matter
Right,
which, you know,
yeah,
doesn't
and
matter
and
where
that's
you're coming from on that, you're not getting the whole story.
right, right, and that's the one of the biggest problems with anymore. Most of us get our news and our what's going on in the world and everything from the internet,
Yeah.
whether it's social media or whatever. And I heard um, a uh, comedian, uh, and it's Bill Maher. So I used to watch him all the time. I loved his monologues and stuff like that. Then he got
Yeah.
so far one direction that it was really disturbing. But in reality, he's more of a centrist than he is anything else. He doesn't claim to be a Democrat or Republican, but he's a realist, and he came to come down on that and said, you know, news programs, doesn't matter what network it is,
Right.
um, are no longer news programs.
No, they're
If you're
opinion
if
pieces.
Yeah, if you're going to bring the news, it's got to be, well. We grew up with Huntley Brinkley Report and
Walter
uh,
Cronkite and
yeah, Walter Cronkite, and that's what they brought, the news.
yeah.
You know, and I think when Cronkite signed off, that's when news reporting died. And we have it's entertainment, right?
Well,
And
they were given the freedom, I think might have been in the Reagan years, where they
yeah,
could where they didn't have to specifically say this is an opinion piece.
right, right,
And for the younger generation, that's how news has looked their whole lives.
mhm,
But for those of us that are older, we remember when it was just the news, and then if they had an opinion on it, they had their op-ed.
right, exactly, yeah, yeah, and it
And
was
they
titled as such.
and they, you know, they would talk about how they saw it.
Mhm,
And that was okay because they weren't presenting it as the news and the facts.
right, right,
And so now, especially I'd say in the last 7, 8 years,
yeah,
everything is so far flung either one way or the other.
Mhm.
There's very little that's in the middle that talks about both sides and hears about, let you hear from both sides. And I don't know, I think there's maybe two that I know of, news sources that strictly are the news.
Mhm.
They will give you links if you want to follow other parts of the story,
Mhm.
and it's usually from
Yeah.
different opinions. But I haven't watched the news in quite a while. I think the last time I watched the news was during the election.
Yeah.
Um, and even that was not
Biased.
the
Yeah.
news.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
And
sensationalized.
oh, and that's been going on for a long time.
Oh
But
yeah. 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 Yeah.
even now the weather is sensationalized.
I know. I know. And see, we're coming up on hurricane season here in Florida, so it's going. They're already talking. So apparently they have changed the spaghetti models. They've changed the model. They want to show something, and it's like, guys, it's a hurricane. It's going to do what it wants to do.
Yeah,
And they do follow paths and stuff like that, but they're talking about how much more accurate they can get. Now, I will say, being in Florida with stuff like that, the reporting on the hurricanes are, if you go with the local guys, it's much more accurate and much more
right.
news based rather than entertainment based.
Well, because it has to be, because
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It affects people's lives. You got to
yeah,
get, you got to go, right. Of course, when it comes to a hurricane, what you have to do is pay attention to Waffle House. If Waffle House is open, then stay put. That's the joke in Florida, right? If Waffle House closes, you best be moving.
you best be on the road and
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
town.
because they don't close. So anyway, but yeah, it's gotten, and unfortunately, we don't, as a society, we're not allowing that next generation to have an open mind. It's either
No,
this way or that way. And more and more I have a really good friend who is a teacher, and he's walking away from it. Um, he has his mind is really sharp when it comes. He would be perfect to fix that type of issues within a school district or within a school,
right.
because he understands it doesn't matter what his political views are, what his personal views are. You have to teach the child to have an open mind
Yes.
and to be able to listen to both sides of the story and critically think enough to form an opinion. And we're not teaching that in the schools. We're not teaching that in the Hillsborough County School District, that's for sure.
In fact, a lot of us aren't teaching it at home either.
Right, right. And it's gotten so far. You know, I'm assuming it was the way when you, and now we went to school a while ago, but if there was an issue, my parents knew about it. You know, the parent teacher conferences were not um, they were mandatory, and one parent had to be there at least, and they were blunt and bold, and the discipline was there. My assistant principal in high school had a paddle, um, and it had holes in it. And I asked him one time, not that he ever used it on me, but I asked him one time why the holes are in there. He says because it makes it move faster. It's like, okay, so but you can't do that.
And I'm kind of glad some of that is not allowed anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to a Catholic school, so we had the nuns with
Oh,
the rulers.
whole different world. Whole
Whole
different
different
world.
world.
But here's the thing: the education, while it was still faith based, my cousin completely through Catholic schools, college and everything. Um, there was a higher level of education. There was a
Well, I think
higher
it
level
helped.
of.
It was smaller classrooms,
Mhm,
class
yep.
sizes,
Hmm.
um, more interaction with the teachers,
Higher expectation.
higher expectations, and when I look at even just the elementary schools around here, there are probably as many kids in the elementary school as were in my whole high school.
Yeah, yeah,
The school sizes, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you have that many students in a classroom, you need more than one
yes,
adult.
yeah, yeah. When you get up in the 20, and if you push 20 in a classroom, there needs to be a second person in there. I'm sorry, um, it just has to happen. Whether it's a teacher's aide or somebody to assist
Right.
the teacher, especially with discipline. And we have so many kids coming. I look at my grandson's preschool, and they do a really good job. And the teacher in there has a couple of assistants. They work on stuff all through the day, so I know that he'll be prepared when he does actually go to school. In his quite frankly, his primary language is Polish, but he speaks Polish, he speaks Russian, and he speaks English without an accent in English. By the way,
Oh,
you would
wow.
not you would not know that that is not his first language. And now, mom and dad are trying to teach him Spanish. So, but he's at that age, he's at 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old, where he'll be able to soak it in.
Oh,
He,
yeah,
we
they're
were
little sponges.
Yeah, we were coming home. I picked him up at school the other day, and he says, "Grandpa Sam," he says, "Do you speak Russian?" And I said, "No." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, I never learned it. I will teach you." So it's like, okay, this may be interesting. So, um, uh, but that came out of nowhere. He wanted to know, and so and his English is perfect. I mean, there's not an issue there at all. But then that innocence of being able to say to somebody who's 60 plus years older than you, "I'll teach you." You
Well,
know,
and the thing is kids teach the way they learn. And so instead of teaching you like a whole sentence
Mhm.
or a whole concept, they're going to teach you a word at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So,
coffee,
yep, yep. Yeah.
bathroom.
Well, I think the first few words are going to be lollipop, ice cream, apple, and banana. Those would probably be the first four words I learn. He loves apples and bananas, and he also knows that Grandpa is probably not supposed to do the lollipops and the ice cream, but
Does
Grandpa's
occasionally.
rule. So, so, but you know, I love it when see, we can come together and talk like this, and um, regardless of what our background, our faith, our political views, or whatever, but people just won't do that today.
No, no, not at all.
And so we would encourage you. I mean, Linda and I do this. We could probably talk all day about various subjects and everything else, and but it's because we respect each other. We respect each other's opinion. We may not agree, but we respect the right to have that opinion. And unfortunately, in today's society, we have gotten away from that. Um,
You
we
know,
look at
we
um,
don't see the shades of gray.
yes, yes,
Um, and there are some things that I'm very black and white about.
hmm,
But for the most part, as long as what someone is saying or doing isn't hurting me or anyone physically at that moment, I have to let it go.
mhm,
Now, if that continues over time, then I may distance myself from that.
right,
But we're such a knee jerk, immediate reaction.
yeah,
You know, we've become because we're used to having things at the snap of a finger.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we expect everything to move that way. And,
right, right,
we know as we've gone through all of the different classes and things that we've done that, it's not in our time.
yeah, Yeah.
It's in God's time or the universe's time, whatever your
Yeah.
belief system is on that. And we can help things along, but if we try to force it, then that actually makes it worse and it makes it takes longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
be willing to be flexible and go with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah. Um, it's, I love that, be flexible thing. And it's like, it's one of those, um, we use it a lot at the port with our with the folks who work there. There's only like half a dozen or so different areas where somebody would work, and some people, well, I can't do that, or I have this issue that causes me not to be able to do that job. First off, there's no job there that is physically, emotionally challenging. There are some that are mentally challenging because you do have to think and stuff like that with some of the computer programs and stuff. And so um, there, there is one job I can think of that is stressful, but it's only because people don't listen, and you can't help. You know, you seriously can't help what happens to them when you've asked them not to do something, and you're not allowed to stop them. You can ask them not to do it, but you're not allowed to stop them.
Right.
And so yeah, so is that a little stressful? Yeah, but I did it for months, and it finally dawned on me. It's like, if they fall, they fall. There's nothing I can do about it anyway. um and so and these people are not, well, we have a wide range. I find that when you work with them and work alongside of them and help them relieve that stress, then uh, then they don't mind. But some of them, especially as they approach my age, don't want to change.
And they were probably raised, when you hit a certain age, you are how you are.
Hmm.
Everybody else has
Yeah,
to adjust to you because
yeah,
that's what we used to have to do, right? You know,
yeah,
yeah. Grandpa's 90, he can get away with whatever he wants. Well, when you get about that age, probably.
yeah, 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 yeah. I keep there's these memes that pop up in little. I know they're AI generated. Of kids saying different things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But every time a little girl comes up that says something about uh, I can get away with anything because my grandpa's going to, protect me and stuff like that. I send it to my granddaughter. It's like, if you bring her over here, don't tell me she can't eat this, that, and the other thing. I'm not going to go overboard, and I will bow to their wishes for the most part. Um, but I'm very upfront with them too. We'll
Yeah.
play. If I've got something to do, she's going for the ride. She's going with me. You better bring the car seat and all that kind of stuff. Um, but I want the baby to grow up with an open mind and a critical thinking mind.
Yes.
And uh, I so outside of one of the terminals at the port, there's a play area between one terminal and the other, and the aquarium, and there's a victory ship there. There's a play area there, and so about the time parents bring the kids, I go out and I watch, and I love to see the kids playing. There's things for them to crawl on and things like that and everything, but you can tell the helicopter parents, and then the parents that are keeping an eye on their kids, but they're letting their kids be kids, right? And the ones that let their kids be kids play in a group. Doesn't matter color, doesn't matter age, doesn't matter male, female, whatever. They're playing together.
Yep.
They're growing together, and they begin to create friendships. And at that age, they haven't been taught anything about race, political beliefs, anything, right? And so they have a friendship. That gap comes later
Right.
if we let it as parents. And then you have the helicopter parents. The kids are playing alone. And you can see that, okay, the kid wants to play on this little toy and he plays there, and somebody else comes over, and mom or dad moves them away. Let's go over here. And it breaks my heart because that kid is not that kid is learning isolationist.
Yeah.
He's learning, okay, can't trust people here, can't trust. And so you think about that long term, what does that do to the child?
And what does that do to them as they become an adult?
Yes, it's scary. It's scary. But it also brings a smile to my face to watch kids play like that, especially the ones that parents just let them play.
You
So
know, kids aren't born making those distinctions.
yeah. Well,
They're put into
mhm,
their awareness by family and friends and other adults. And
yeah,
kids are so observant. You know, like you were talking, little sponges, they pick up everything.
everything.
So
Yeah.
even if you don't think you're saying something, but you're doing something, they see that.
Mhm, mhm,
And so they start to emulate that. And so,
yeah.
think about it when a little kid, repeats words that they hear at home, and sometimes,
Absolutely. My great granddaughter did that.
yeah, and it's like, whoops, I guess they were listening.
Yep. And then the first things out of a parent's mouth is, "What did you say?" And they had to hear it somewhere. And like you say,
Right.
normally at home. But yeah, that's where kids pick up their prejudices and things like that. Now there is some stuff once you get into school, but if parents had more involvement at school,
Yeah.
you know, I think that um, the gentleman I was talking to you about, um, one of the parents asked, do you have any cameras in the classroom? Well, the school district won't let him put cameras in the classroom, and he welcomes it. It's like, first off, the parents will see the way I teach.
Right.
Um, it'll also show you the way your kid's acting in class,
Yes.
and so then there's a buy-in from there's because little Johnny never does anything wrong, right? I mean, it's just my little boy has never done anything wrong, right? That's or little girl, and so and um, and when you do put cameras in like that, people after a period of time, people forget that they're there,
Yeah.
and so you begin to see the real person come out.
Right.
And so, I mean, I'd be all for it, depending on how they use the information.
Yeah. And that's always the thing is,
Yep, yep,
what is going to be the purpose
yep,
of doing that and
yep.
who gets access to it.
Right. And then who's making the determination whether this was the right action or the wrong action?
Yeah, there's that as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I realize it's Big
yeah.
Brother watching. Um, so we have kids coming out of school with racial, political, economic, social prejudices. Okay. Where are they getting that?
Yep.
They spend 8 hours a day at school, pretty close. So where are they getting that? If they're getting that at school, I read somewhere about uh, the changes that they've made in the history books, and I can't prove it because I don't have one. I can't go back, and maybe I should. But some of the things that our kids are not being taught, and some of the I don't know what the term is, but the manipulation of
Yeah.
history
Yeah.
wrong. It's just dead wrong. Um, you yeah, just dead wrong. And so I don't know what the fix is. Um,
I don't. And see, the weird thing is depending on where you live, they'll teach the same thing differently.
right, exactly.
And
So
so once the kids get out of their bubble, then they're interacting with people that learn differently
yep,
about the same thing. And then there's that friction. And the thing I never understood is when you look at the definition of what history is, it's not an opinion piece.
Right, right. Just like the news,
Yeah.
it is a
History is fact. It's
Yep.
what you do with those facts and how you teach those facts and how you learn from those facts
Mhm.
that makes the difference. But they're facts.
Yeah, yeah.
And they
It's
should not be manipulated one way or the other.
right.
You know, I wasn't big on them taking down all the statues. Leave the statues, put the real story
Behind them.
behind the, you know,
Yep. Yep.
they were a great general and
They were this. Yeah.
they were this.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Because there's two sides to everything. And it's funny, when I was student pastor with high school kids, I had one in one county, or not one, but several in one county, several in another county, a couple in charter school, and some in faith-based schools. And they would, no, that's not what we were taught. No, we weren't taught. Well, we were taught this. So then
Yeah.
you could have a discussion, and you
Right.
could talk about the historical fact, but I only had them for an hour a week.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully, what I worked with them on sticks, because I worked on the more than anything else, the critical thinking and the question. You know, um, and I think that's one thing that has been lost in the last couple of generations, is that
Yeah.
critical thinking and questioning.
I think we haven't allowed our kids to make their own choices, make their own decisions. And I know as a parent, it's hard to watch your kids make a bad choice.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's where the learning comes in. If they aren't allowed to make those mistakes when they're young, they're going to be making a lot more of those mistakes when they're older, and it's
When they're
harder to
older, yeah.
fix.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you make a stupid mistake and you're 5, the repercussions of that are different if you make that same mistake, say, at 20.
Yeah, yeah.
And now you're an adult and they expect you to
Yeah.
behave like an adult, and you know, those
Yeah.
kind of things. And I think the pendulum just continues to swing back and forth, and we never really stop in the middle.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like
I think
it's
you're
like
right.
it's like a
Yeah, yeah.
flash.
Yeah, right.
It's
Yeah, I
not
look
that
at
slow.
yeah, yeah. At some point in time, it does have to stop somewhere in the middle. And you know, I look at opportunities lost.
Yeah.
You know, and one situation always comes to mind from my childhood. I was in high school, but I met this young lady at a competition, singing competition, vocal competition, and she was good. She was also black, in the 60s. Okay. If I remember correct, somewhere in Philly is where she lived. So I had to be junior or senior in high school because I was driving already. And so there were some things that um, we competed at the same time. There was also some things that we wanted to do at the same time. Now I had somebody I was dating, okay, and this young lady, our mutual interest was music. This is what we do. So both of our parents thought we were in a dating situation in the 60s, okay, and so uh, after one of the competitions, or at one of them, she had met my parents, along with a whole bunch of other kids, right? Um, Back then, we did a lot of stuff as a group, but and she told me, she says, "Well, my dad wants to meet you." Okay, fine. So I drove in and met him, and he says, "What are your intentions?" I says, "We're friends. We do this music stuff together." And both parents. And this is one thing that I wouldn't say that either set of parents was um, racially prejudiced, okay? Because I never saw that from my parents, and she didn't understand why her dad was that way. But as it turns out, they were trying to protect us. There was
Right.
no protection needed. We were friends. We were doing music together. We were doing music with groups of people. And so the friendship kind of, because of our parents, the friendship kind of dissolved. And I regret that. But
Yeah.
you know,
And they think they're being helpful. And
yeah,
back in the 60s, depending on where you lived, that was probably,
yeah,
they probably didn't have any problem with you as a person
right.
or her
And
as a
my parents
person.
didn't have any problem
But
with her as a person, but
right. But there was such a stigma.
yeah, yeah. And the whole concern was, what happens if you're driving to an event and it's only the two of you in the car and somebody who doesn't agree with that sees you and gets the wrong idea? And so, anyway, I've long since been over, but it's always
Yeah.
bothered me that was how we presented then. And so that extends to today, because that was the prevailing thought, the whole interracial thing and everything. And I look back at it and it's like, I love to hear her sing,
Yeah.
it had nothing to do. Anyway, it's just funny the way, we were raised and the way kids are being raised now. And is there the right opportunity for kids to be together, regardless of socioeconomic, racial, whatever background, because let's face it, we're at the grandparent age. So what I look at some of the kids I went to school with, okay, and I'm like, you really think like that? You're nuts, and so anyway, I guess that's a topic for another day. But life comes at us hard, sometimes hard and fast. Sometimes you're wondering how it crept up on you. I'm wondering how I'm as old as I am. I haven't figured it out yet. I have no idea how I got this damn old.
But your job's not done yet.
I know. And that's the thing. As long as you get up in the morning, you have breath, you have a purpose in this life that needs to be fulfilled. There is somebody, someone, someplace, something that you have not positively impacted the way God wants you to, the way high power wants you to. The universe wants you to impact lives, and it doesn't matter what your expertise is. Linda is an expert at what she does when it comes to the self-care and those types of areas. And so, for the both of us, between some of the health issues and stuff like that we have, there's somebody still there that needs what you have to offer. There's somebody still there that you need to impact. And when God's done with you, he will bring you home. Same way with me, sometimes I wonder, with all the aches and pains, why, but he's not finished with you yet.
Nope.
So I've rambled on long enough.
Well, this was a good one. It was fun to just kind of go with the flow today.
Yeah, well, it's one of those, when I got so far behind and we wanted to be on at 9, and I called you and I said, let's just do this. Let's just get on and talk. And I'll be honest with you folks, we all have a ton of stories to tell. If you want to tell your story with us, I put the Balancing Act email in there. If you want to be a guest on our show, just let us know. Let us know what you want to talk about, and one of us or both of us will reach out to you. balancingact2024@gmail.com. And living life in harmony is what we're trying to do with it, between our personal lives, our finances, our just life. Reach out.
It's the only way to do it. I mean,
Yep.
especially right now, we need to find that harmony.
So Linda, this has been fun.
This has been great, Sam.
So folks, we'll see you next week. Till then, live intentionally, be very, very blessed. Take care.
Have a good one.
I'm going to